It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Happy game day, everyone, and here we go. Game 2 with The Oil Stream. Dustin Nielsen and Tommy Gazzola with it, brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Nothing says game 2 must win like a Popeye's chicken sandwich. Get it today. Well over a dozen locations in Edmonton and the surrounding area. Tommy, I must say you look sharp today, my man. That suit looks good. I like it.
Thank you. I was actually just going to say, Dusty, you look very sharp today as well. What do you got going on there?
Get out of here. I got the classic Oil Stream t-shirt with the suit jacket look. I like the way it looks. Pick up your Oil Stream swag at nielsenmedia.ca. Click on Oil Stream and get your shirts and your hoodies over there. You might want to start wearing it. Who knows? Could be on a playoff run, or tonight could be an absolute disaster, and all of a sudden everybody's in full-blown panic mode. I mean, some people were already in full-blown panic mode after the first game, which, I mean, I kind of get considering their history over the last little while, but this is a different group, and we'll get into that. We're going to get your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day a little bit later on, and if you are watching on the live stream and you've not yet subscribed to the podcast, just search The Oil Stream on all of your podcasting platforms, and we would appreciate the sub over there. Tommy, you were down at the ring today, both skates. What's the big story coming out of today on either side of this thing?
Yeah, well, let's start with the Kings, and then we'll go to the real big story that affects everything that we usually talk about. The Kings, no Arvidsson, even some rumblings that he's back in L.A. Todd McLellan obviously didn't want to give away too much, just said he wouldn't be playing tonight. And that's a big blow for the Kings.
Yes, it is. He's a good player.
He's a very good player, and he's supposed to be on that line with Moore and Danault. And Iafallo stepped in and had a great game for them in game 1. So even if Arvidsson was available to them, I kind of wondered out loud on the radio yesterday if they would just stick with that line for one more game and find a way to wedge Arvidsson in somewhere else. And they don't have to do that because Arvidsson's not available to them. So that is a big blow for the Kings. It was a highly optional practice for LA today. As for the Oilers, Dusty, like full pull. Everybody was out there.
Yeah. And there's a lot to discuss. I mean, there's more than just everybody out. There's some new guys getting into the lineup. So we're going to get to those lineup changes just quickly. I mean, the big story coming out of game 1, though, Tommy, was Mike Smith. Obviously, the gaffe of throwing that puck right at the middle. If you're following the podcast stream, there's been a little bit of Oil Stream in 5 out there, but we haven't had a full episode since what happened in game 1. Is there any reason to think Mike Smith handles himself any differently in game 2 here, Tommy? Or, I mean, I thought in that game, like, even without the play up the middle, I thought he was okay-ish. Like, I didn't think he was good in that game. I didn't think he was awful. If you include the giveaway, he was awful. But up until that point, I was like, he's not winning them this game, but he hasn't costed them just yet. Then he did. But if he can eliminate a boneheaded play, are you confident in his abilities here in game 2?
I'll say yes. Now, is he going to be more cautious? I would assume yes. I mean, he got a little too cute at a bunch of times and moments in that game in game 1. It wasn't just the gaff. Ultimately, he had the gaff. And LA is going to be all after him. They're going to be all after him.
100%. Why wouldn't you?
From the get-go. And they're going to pressure him. And not only that, they're going to pressure the Oilers' defense, and they're going to try to force. I think Smith is going to simplify. My instinct tells me he will. If Joaquin Gage called me yesterday, right before I filled in on JMO's show, I'm like, Gage, you've got 2 minutes. What? He's like, I know why Smith did that. I don't know if he had this conversation with you. And I was like, why? He's like, because Smith was seeing what Jonathan Quick was doing at the other end of the rink. It's a machismo thing. So he thinks one guy's doing that. He's being shown up that he has to do something to one-up him. And he had that blunder. And Gager, I was like, where are you getting this from? He goes, well, I was a goalie for a long time in the pro ranks in the NHL. I'm like, yes, of course. And he's like, I confided in another goalie that I played many years against and another guy that was also in the NHL. And we were all in agreement. We thought it was a machismo thing for Mike Smith because he saw what Jonathan Quick was doing at the other end. So he thought he had to do something above and beyond.
Well, that concerns me, man. Like, that's, I know. What if Quick plays great tonight? McDavid or Smith's going to try to skate to the blue line and feed McDavid at the other line. Like, that's not your job as a goalie. Like in the post game when he said, I was just looking to create something. your job as a goaltender is not to create something. It's to make sure nothing gets created at your end. Like, this can't be an ego thing. Like, your job is to stop the puck. Focus on doing that. That's so disappointing, man. Like, that's not how it should be.
Well, and that's Gager's instinct as a former NHL goalie. Like,
but do you think he's wrong? Look at what happened. Like,
it makes sense what he says.
Give me another good reason he was going to throw that puck up the middle, right? Like,
just, you know what? Yeah,
there wasn't one.
I mean, good point. There's no, and like, going back to how Smith was too cute the entire game. There's nothing to say, don't go behind the net, stop the puck, and set things up for your defense, or make a play to the side if you see it. But like, the way he was going throughout that game, you're like, he's being a little dicey, and sure enough, it caught up to him. So
they need him tonight. I mean, he needs it tonight. He's one loss away from moving into second place all time in consecutive playoff losses. He's lost 10 consecutive playoff games, and a few of them have been on him making mistakes. Just like he hasn't won a playoff game with the Edmonton Oilers yet, which is 3 years in here, buddy. Like, there's been three cracks at it. Like,
there's many reasons why they lost that series last year, and generally he's not one of them.
Still didn't win him a game, though.
I know, but the Calgary series, I think he was the only guy on that team against Colorado who actually played good.
And won one game, right? Did they get one game there, or were they swept?
They got swept, and he was not in goal for the win in the qualifying round. That was Mikko Koskinen. So, yeah, he hasn't.
Because he lost the first game because he gave the puck away.
He did.
So, like, a lot of this is on him, man, and he needs to step up and have a game. Yeah. And I don't know if I'd say I have the confidence in him doing it, but I will say that I'll give him the benefit of the doubt with what he's done down the stretch. That could be what ends up happening, and maybe he can just play well there. But we'll see. Maybe he was just a little off because he hadn't played for 6 days. I mean, that could be something that you could look at as well. So
I'll throw this in there too, and you could 100% be right. I think a lot of that excitement and the hoopla, I think it affected the team, and they were too rambunctious, and we saw Kyler Yamamoto take that penalty early in the game. I think
was a
some of that
penalty to take.
I think that the atmosphere was so good, and the energy was off the hook, and these guys are in their home barn playing in front of their home crowd for the first time in a few years. I think it caught up to them, or it affected them in a way that they were too rambunctious. So
just
maybe they settle back a bit.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just play your game. That's something they'll do. Now, they are moving away from 11-7, which surprises me a bit, but is good news, I guess, because that means Darnell Nurse is going to be able to handle a few more minutes. And I wasn't sure coming out of that first game because I didn't like Darnell Nurse in that first game, but he's just trying to get back up to speed. Yeah. I thought I saw him laboring a little bit here or there. Very interested to see if they can pile 23, 24 minutes onto Darnell Nurse tonight. Tommy, let's just start with the concept of moving away from 11-7 to go to 12-6, and then we'll talk about the forwards.
I didn't think Chris Russell did a ton in that game to really earn another.
Yeah, that's a fair point if you look at it from that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, he had some moments where he made plays that veteran defensemen aren't supposed to make, especially guys that have been around as long as he has been. I think of that one rim up the wall that led to the cross up between him and Barry and that second goal. That was a bad play. So there were some moments there for Chris Russell that I was like, you know what? He wasn't particularly great. And so he comes out. And then now the big news is Josh Archibald goes in. And Dusty, they could go with 4 lines and they can go straight at the Kings. The matching thing, we'll see how that plays out. Edmonton still has last change, but this Josh Archibald news, I didn't think he was on the radar. I thought, he's around, but are you going to sneak him into one game? And he played the one game at the end of the year, and they really didn't go to him when they were on home ice. They would put in Shore or Brassard ahead of him, and all of a sudden he's available for this entire series. And all of us at the rink were like, what the heck is going on? It was like a 2-minute window there where Archibald came and spoke, and he wouldn't divulge too much. And then Jay Woodcroft comes in right after, and Rashog just asks him, and he's like, yeah, he's available for the rest of the series.
Okay, so with Josh Archibald drawing back in, they will start tonight like this: McDavid, Puljujarvi, Kane, Draisaitl, Yamo, Hyman, Nuge, Ryan, Archibald, and then McLeod with Cassian and Fogel. Tommy, let's just start with Archibald himself, and then we'll get into what that bottom six may look like or may impact. Josh Archibald's played 8 games all season. He has 1 assist. I know he can provide that physical spark and the energy. I thought their energy level was okay, personally, in game 1. If anything, they kind of had to dial it back a little bit. Outside of his ability to get in on the forecheck, which I do love. I mean, Archibald, when he's on his game, he's a very important player for this team. Maybe there's some penalty killing benefit there. I'm sure they'll get him out in those situations, although their special teams are really good in game 1 as well. I thought for a good chunk of the 8 games he played in, he was a little bit of a liability defensively. So it's just an interesting spot for me to be bringing him in with very little game time this year in a huge spot here in game 2. So are they just looking for a little more pressure on that Los Angeles defense? Is that what they're trying to accomplish here? Like, what do you make of this decision?
That has to be it, because, I mean, he hasn't really provided any offense when he has played. You're right. Like, he's just catching up to the timing and the rhythm of the game. And now all of a sudden you're asking him to play playoffs and you're down a game. Like, he's going to be tapping into adrenaline every single shift he gets. And if Josh Archibald tonight doesn't go in and is the first guy or the second guy in on the forecheck, and if he is the first guy in on the forecheck, he better be laying out whatever defenseman is the guy going back for that puck. I think we're probably going to see more chip and chase. I think we're probably going to see more of an emphasis on the Oilers trying to really impose their will on the smaller defensemen, more inexperienced defensemen from the LA Kings. Because, there were times where they did that the other night. I think of the second period where they were able to do that, but not consistently, not for a full 60 minutes. And if Archibald isn't going in there, they're not asking him to make great plays and dangle defensemen, Dusty. Yeah. They're asking him to go and separate defensemen and other Kings players from the puck so that they can get possession and then try to muck a greasy goal. That's why he's going to be in the lineup, and we'll see if it lasts for the rest of the series, but he's got to have a good game tonight.
Once again, the bottom 6 will start tonight like this. Nuge between Ryan and Archibald, McLeod with Cassian and Fogel. Tommy, what do you think overall of that bottom 6? Do you like that bottom 6 and what they might be capable of?
I'm a little bit surprised that they're putting Archibald on the line with Nugent Hopkins and Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Fogel actually had some decent jump, but maybe they want to kind of balance out the physical play. I think
I might have a theory. I think I might have a theory on this. Can I throw my theory by you? Because I looked at it, I was like, Ryan, Archibald, and Nuge. My theory is that they put Fogel with McLeod and Cassian, with the thought process being that if Puljujarvi doesn't start the game well, Cassian slides up, and then Puljujarvi plays down with McLeod and Fogel on that line, and then you just leave Ryan, Archibald, and Nuge the way they are. Because I think Cassian would be, unless they want to do the whole flip of McLeod over to the left and Hyman to the right and Yamamoto up to the top line. I feel like, because I wouldn't mind the idea of a McLeod, Puljujarvi, Fogel line.
Right.
So I'm wondering if they've got that in place, that if Puljujarvi's not going in the first 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, if he gets a few shifts, if they play 5-on-5, I wonder if Cassian slides up there and you can just seamlessly just throw Puljujarvi down there with those guys, because you got to leave Ryan with Nuge for the faceoffs, right? Like, yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to think of the different looks it gives them, and maybe that's the reason. That's my theory. That's what I was thinking.
I kind of wondered. The only thing that I thought about was, like, maybe they want 2 big bodies that can go bang and crash with McLeod, who doesn't do that. Although he did throw a hit the other night.
He did a little bit. He did a little bit in that first game, but yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's the only other thing I could
maybe.
Think of.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's a pretty bold move throwing Archibald in here when I didn't think they didn't play like shit in game 1. They had a couple of miscues that they had in game 1, and their goaltender pissed it away. But I still thought overall, like, the 11-7 setup wasn't too bad. So I trust Jay Woodcroft 100%. So I'm going to ride with Woodcroft on this one. But it's a little shocking to see Josh Archibald going in here for game 2. But that being said, he probably learned his lesson against Winnipeg. When your team's up 4-1 in a must-win game, don't take a stupid penalty, which I still can't believe he did what he did in that situation, man. Like, Mike Smith thinks that was a bad decision. All right, let's get into your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day. Brought to you by, of course, our friend Ken Morrison. Give him a call, 780-993-4815. Whether you're buying or selling, he's your guy. Tommy, what do we got today, bud?
All right, the Ken Morrison Remax Excellence question of the day is this, Dusty Nielsen. How much faith do you have in the Oilers cleaning up their own zone, eliminating the simple mistakes, and being forced by the Kings? Because that, in the first period and at times in the third, was an issue. And I felt like the Oilers did themselves no favors. I talked about that Chris Russell bad rim to nobody that led to the second goal. That's the perfect example. How much faith do you have in this group to clean up their own zone, which they've generally been much better at in the last 2 months?
Yeah, like I'm thinking like an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm thinking an 8 out of 10. Like they have been very, you said it. Like how many times in the last 2 months, especially you on your post-game show, whether it's you talking about it, texts coming in, or people calling, how many times over the last 2 months since Jay Woodcroft's been here or whatever it is, have people been like, oh man, they're an absolute train wreck in their defensive zone? Like that hasn't been a common theme as they've got better at 5-on-5 and have been one of the top 5 teams winning percentage wise in the league for the last couple of months. So I still kind of view game 1 as a write-off. Like, and that's why I'm a little surprised they're changing the lineup a little bit, because I just was like, wow, you know what? Just didn't work. That's fine. I understand it's the playoffs, so maybe you don't want to mess around, but sure. I didn't mind their game. I thought it was a game that Jay Woodcroft can sit down and talk to 4 guys and get a lot of this shit sorted out. So I said it earlier. I mean, I'm a Jay Woodcroft guy. I feel like he and Manson can get that cleaned up. And you talked about it earlier. You were right. A lot of what we saw early in that game, especially, it came from just running around. Like you're just so fired up, you're not paying attention to what you need to. If they can calm those nerves, and McDavid admitted after game 1 he didn't think they handled the emotion well. If they can calm that down, it should bring the entire defensive zone game together a little bit. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to be able to do it.
I like their chances as well. I don't know if I'm 8 out of 10. You know what? 8 out of 10 is good, but I'd probably go with 7, something like that. Because I've got the devil's advocate. I got the one guy in my ear, the devil saying one thing, and I've got the Tommy,
do this, think this, yeah.
Exactly. And the devil, I say, shoo, fly, shoo. But it's always there pestering me. And so I'll go 7 out of 10 if we're putting it on a scale like that. But the Kings are going to attack them again the same way, because it worked in game 1, and B, there were times in the season, especially when the Oilers had rough nights, and you can look back at that last loss in Minnesota. I'm not talking about that Columbus loss, because I think they were just kind of like they whatevered that game. But that loss in Mini where they got pumped 5-1 and they were just a train wreck in their own zone, I think that was the template for teams against the Oilers. And LA did a pretty good job, on top of the fact that the Oilers created their own problems for themselves, and it led to that game 1 loss. But listening to the group today, Dusty, and especially Leon Draisaitl and Kyler Yamamoto, they're not dismissing what happened in game 1, but it didn't seem to set panic into their mindset. Like there were a few things that Leon said,
right? Like nor would it.
Where he was just like, he's like, you know what? That wasn't us. We know, game 1, whatever. He kind of poo-pooed it, but giving it the respect it deserves, because they are down a game in the series. But
different discussion
like
if
the
it's
mindset.
Same questions after game 2, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Then
exactly.
it's a thing. Then it's a thing for sure. Yeah. That's your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day. He's a Remax Hall of Famer. He actually hit a Jack Eichel young gun in the break I did at noon today. So he's flying high right now. So he's pretty excited about that. He's also the leading Remax agent for charity donations this past year in the Edmonton area, which is very cool as well. Give him a call, 780-993-4815, or visit his website, kenrmorrison.com. All right, Tommy, before we wrap up here, and make sure you're watching the podcast stream for a bunch of content. We're having another full episode of the Oil Stream. Friday's going to be tough because we're playing Hockey Helps the Homeless all day Friday, so we're probably looking at a Saturday. Yeah, Saturday's Eric's wedding, but we'll make it work Saturday morning probably. Anyway, prediction for tonight, bud. Let's wrap up with that. What do you think happens tonight?
Yeah, I think the Oilers bounce back in this game, like a 3-1 win, something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm on a 3-2. I think it's going to see a 3-2. I could see 3-1, late goal by the Kings to make it interesting. Yeah, and then in that range.
What I think is truly going to happen is they're going to have a much stronger first period. They're going to have a good start. They need to cash in on that start, though. But they will come out guns a-blazing and hone in that energy, rein it in, use it in a good way. Don't let it bother them. You know what I mean?
All right, buddy. What time do you get going? What time do you get going tonight?
We get going 6 p.m. right after the Jason Gregor show. We got Dennis Bernstein. He's going to be our Kings insider for the entire series. I confirmed that with DB yesterday. What a beauty. He's got that Bronx accent, even though he's an LA guy now.
It's never made sense to me.
Dude, he is one of the most interesting cats in the league and such a good guy. We'll also have a roundtable and Matty Cassian with Game Changers. Obviously, we're going to get a bunch of audio as well. You're also busy. Aren't you doing some work with CTV right now?
Tonight I am, yeah. I think I have to be there at like 6:20 down in the Moss Pit or whatever. Doing a hit with Aaron Isfeld on the 6 o'clock news, Tommy. So
very good.
We'll see. I hope I don't screw it up. Fingers crossed. It should be all right. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the Oil Stream. I'll see you down at the rink a little bit later on, buddy. And boy, there's going to be a lot to talk about, no doubt about it, one way or the other after this game tonight. If you're heading down there, if you happen to see either of us, give us a shout out. Shout out the Oil Stream. That'd be pretty sweet. Pick up your Oil Stream swag. Go to nielsenmedia.ca and get your hands on that. Tommy, enjoy the ride, buddy. I'll talk to you later, man.
Bring it on. See you at the rink, Dusty.